So it is now 1 minute past 6. So I am calling meeting of the library trustees on meeting together on April the. Oh, this is so funny. Yes, I'm sorry, I just pulled out the wrong one and it was Marie's directed. So we are now in session, everyone. Okay. And as we look at the agenda, which I seem to have. Okay. We are starting with public comment. I do not see a member of the public present unless the cinematographer has a public comment. Okay. No, he's happy to be here. Is that your comment?
I'm thrilled.
Thrilled. Okay. So Mark, if you don't know Mark, he is the one who does all these extraordinary videos that appear all over the place for as many meetings as there are hours in the week, it seems to me.
Mhm.
And Mark has also done other videos in the library for other entities, correct? So, and he was present at our legislative breakfast as well. So Mark is a friend of the library. So welcome, Mark, to this
Thank
meeting.
you.
And Phyllis is also a friend.
Right, so I'm going to get there. So that was, yes, but she's not public comment. She is first on the agenda. We put you on first, Phyllis, so that you wouldn't have to stay if you didn't wish to, but you are obviously very much welcome to stay for the whole or part of the meeting. So everyone knows Phyllis, yes, who is the current president of the Friends of the Bigelow Public Library. So
Right.
Phyllis.
So I just want to take a few minutes of your meeting. So I've been the president of the Friends for 2 years, and our fiscal year ends June 30th, and I plan to step down at the end of the fiscal year. I have been really over several months, at least casually looking for a vice president who would then take over. And I've approached 3 or 4 people to no avail. So I have also talked to the director of the Council on Aging and asked her if they would post a blurb in their Facebook page. And I emailed the PTA. But I think mostly whoever comes into this role is going to be a library patron, right? I mean, it's going to be someone who loves the library and uses the library. So I'm asking for your help. And I also don't really know that many people in town. But particularly, Marino, your patrons, you and your staff. I mean, you actually found me, you found Becky, you found Polly, you found half the board. So
It was a lot
no
of arm
pressure.
twisting.
Right. Continue to arm twist. And again, with the trustees, if you know of people in town who love the library and would like a substantive role. It's not like a crushing, weighty role, but it does require some time. I would just appreciate the help because you guys know the library population and you know the town population. I'm assuming most of you do better than I do as a newcomer.
So before we start brainstorming, jumping in to speak on behalf of everyone here to thank you, Phyllis, because you did step into that role, not necessarily expecting to step into it like that, and you've done a wonderful job.
Well, thank you.
Really wonderful job. So we thank you very, very much for that.
And I just want to say that I have prepared a blurb and it has a link to a job description. I'll call it a job description and a set of I call them frequently asked questions to assure whoever comes in that, first of all, we now have a solid structure. Like when I came in, it was kind of starting from scratch. We have really an established board. We have a populated board. We have a structure. So we have a lot of stability and we have a lot of resources. And there's me, at least still coming to meetings and certainly able to help coach somebody, advise somebody. So I just want people to understand they're not coming into this as a new board member with like no support or that there's a lot of administrative stuff. They can really just get down to whatever mission work they want to do as opposed to administrative work.
Is that able to go on our website? The F and F.
Is that what on our
I
website?
haven't asked you, I haven't sent it out yet, but I plan to.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
so
it
it's
could
not
be
because
in the
apparently it doesn't
newsletter or
have-
and or website because people, we put it on our Facebook page, but we have like 67 people looking at it,
Yeah.
whereas I'm sure you have way
But-
more than that. Looking at your newsletter and Facebook.
Does the Friends have on the new website design? Is there a
I think
for the
so.
Friends period?
Yeah, we have there's a friends page
Okay.
and it has a listing at the very bottom. There's not that, you don't have to scroll very far to
Right.
get to it.
Uh,
So it is on our page, but again, I think people look at the newsletter and sort of the main part of the library
okay.
site more often than they find us.
So could we include it in the library's upcoming, not just one, but several, newsletters moving until somebody does volunteer or other.
But also, I think that it's probably going to be somebody that somebody approaches personally.
Yes.
As opposed to somebody seeing it in a Facebook
Right.
post. And, and as I said, I have approached some people personally and to no avail.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not something that everybody wants to do, or they don't really have that much time. So,
Yeah. There's quite a few is it Parks and Rec and the schools? There's a young woman who's joined from the schools on the board, right? I remember from a few meetings ago.
Becky. Is that
The high school students?
yeah, Astrid.
That's-
Mhm.
Is that a possible avenue either through the high school or her person? Who was it that helped recruit Becky from the school?
Not Becky Astrid.
Astrid, okay.
Oh, I did. I
Um,
went to the an NHS meeting.
I'm just thinking of all the places that you have probably already tapped.
Yeah.
Any other thoughts, people? Where else?
Yeah, I mean, I don't.
And it is
It's
word
just,
of mouth.
keep it in mind as you come across people who maybe are looking for, something sort of semi-substantial to do in their time. It might be a retired person. It might just be a really working person who's really wants a volunteer job.
Forgive me for interrupting you.
Yeah.
I wonder if there is, like if we were to check with Mike Ward, if there's anyone who's sort of inquiring at town hall about opportunities for volunteerism, if he might have some thoughts on that as well. But I think I would agree with Phyllis that you know the patrons so well that you perhaps have the best perspective on this.
So someone who's contacting Mike Ward is because they want to sit on a board, a town board.
Okay.
And usually that means, like, if they want to volunteer for the library, they will contact the library. I mean, I just from experience, that's what I'm seeing. And having someone come in and not be a library user and then take over the board of the, it's not.
Not likely, but also not ideal.
Right,
I mean,
exactly.
But you want somebody who loves the library and uses it.
Right.
At the circulation desk where you have the corner for the friends, there's a little sign that says, it can be a little thing, that says, many thanks to Phyllis, our president who's stepping down in June. We can't, Again, just something that then lead on to the next step, because there could be someone coming in. If Marie is the person who is extremely good at finding people who love the library because they find Marie or Marie knows them or whatever. But just some way of a visual that would catch someone's eye when Marie's not here or the staff aren't here. But recruiting the staff too, right? No.
Right, yeah, I thought about talking to the staff too, because they interact with people all day long at the CERT desk.
Or if there's a sign
even
and they see
upstairs.
someone bend to read it. Then
Everybody
Abby says-
descends on them and a net drops on them.
You are now. Oh.
So anyway, I just wanted to put that out there. I don't want to take up any more of your time, but I have your email and I have Jackie's email. Of course, I have your email. So I can send the blurb with the
Yes.
links to you and you
That
can
makes
maybe
sense.
disseminate it to the rest of the board
Right.
and just keep your ears open.
Yeah. and the current board members of the Friends too, to have your blurb. Sorry, I have very little voice here.
Oh, yeah, and I'm also sending out I send out a newsletter to the members,
Okay.
volunteers, patrons who've shown an interest. I have about 150 people that are attached to the library that I send out a newsletter to, and that will be in the newsletter.
So, and this would be a concern if someone's coming in from outside. Are all the current board members planning to stay on the board?
Yes,
Do
right.
Just need
Yes, and that's
precedence?
another one of the FAQs. It's like it's a stable
Yes.
board
Okay. And
with
none of
good
them,
infrastructure.
none of them want to be president.
No.
Okay.
Good infrastructure and me still around to
Yeah.
answer questions, advise, whatever. I'm not disappearing. I will still be an active
Yeah,
member.
okay.
I just don't want to be in charge. So-
Do folks, what is do they sort of, I can make some assumptions, right? Are they citing like just they don't have enough time, or is there something else, or is there anything to be gleaned from the hesitance of those you've inquired with?
I think most of them don't have the time. There's two of us are retired. Polly has a lot of family stuff going on and other volunteer things.
Mhm.
Some have young children,
Mhm.
and just full-time jobs, and it's just not what they have the time, or they're just, not interested in expending. It's the being in charge is,
Yeah.
it's a different role. It takes a lot more headspace and time.
Mhm.
And yeah, so you really have to be somebody who really wants to sign on to a leadership role.
Understood.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Well, thank you.
It's the lily pad, spread it out.
Well, now it's on video, so now everyone knows.
Yeah.
There you go. Thanks.
Yes, now it's on video, yes.
Thanks. Good to see you all.
That's
you.
pretty
Thank you.
good. Thanks. Thank you.
Yep.
All right, everybody. Now we go to minutes. So minutes of the last meeting, entertain a motion, second, and then we will discuss if there are any thoughts on that. So, waiting for no motion before we can discuss.
Motion to adopt minutes?
Okay, Gabby, motion made,
Second.
seconded by Francisco. All right. Any thoughts, clarifications, proofing? I'm telling you. I think I would like to say at this moment, maybe you had a chuckle too when you got Marie's email, the notifications with the attachments for this meeting. There were 17 attachments. This is an all-time record, and you are constantly sending us things. So this was truly spectacular. So 17. Thank you for communicating with the board, really. All right, back to the minutes, everyone.
Do we need to minute that?
Real quick.
Do you want pizza?
My stomach's making noise.
That's why I was asking. I'm sure that nobody here would mind if you wanted.
No, not at all. Might calm it down.
Oh, wait, anyone? Another minute to review? No? Anything, Jacqueline? No. No?
No.
Francisco? No? All right. So all those in favour of adopting the draft minutes? Right? We're not, okay. Wow, yes, here we go. Here's a lot. Right. Next item on the agenda. The Massachusetts Public Libraries Construction Program update and progress.
Yes, that's me.
That's you. And some of this what may overlap into.
So, the Permanent Building Committee did choose, and I believe I sent this information out, did choose an OPM company, P3. They, see, they did, 3 companies did presentations and, have had interviews in front of the whole committee, and they've decided to go with P3. P3, they sent a contract to, Michael, the town administrator. They were going to vote on it tonight, but just so you know, there is no, building committee meeting that we have to, you know, abbreviate and go to. That's not happening tonight. But in the meantime, the OPM also created a proposal, like, and I don't, there's like this different layers and nobody can quite tell me. Basically, you post something and say, okay, this is the job that's happening. Request an RFQ or RFS or RFP it. And so they posted something last Wednesday, and immediately, since then, I think we got 45 requests.
Wow.
And they're not all with library experience. Somebody actually sent something up from Florida, but so it will probably, I can't imagine it being more than a handful that actually fill out, write up the whole proposal. But in the meantime, we had a lot of requests, and so they've all been sent out. There is a tour on Thursday that I will be leading for any interested firms.
You're gonna be busy.
I'm gonna be busy
I would think so, right?
on Thursday.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a one-time tour. I'm not doing it throughout the day. It's once. For the OPM, 3 people came, so it wasn't that bad. So I don't know how many people are gonna come, because I can't imagine someone coming up from Florida when they look at the project. They'll be like, of the companies, 10 of them were on the MBLC's list of companies that had. I actually have this here. 10 of them were on the architect firm list from previous library jobs. 2 of these people, 3 of the companies on the list did not submit anything yet, but 10 of them did. 10 of the ones did. Some of them I recognize, some of them I do not. Some of them I know their libraries, some of them I do not. So it'll be interesting when we get the proposals to see their experience. And they are due in 2 weeks.
Oh, that's very fast. Point of information, do we, out of all these people, who actually selects them? Does the OPM go back to the permanent building committee?
So I
For
asked
sure.
and nobody could tell me. I said, who is reviewing these proposals
Right.
and making the decision? Ultimately, the PBC makes the decision
Right.
from the finalists. But I don't know who's reviewing all of
Who
the
determines
proposals.
the finalist list?
Right.
And okay. So
That was not, I asked and have not yet heard an answer.
now, who are we
Now, granted, our
asking?
phones have been broken today, so.
Who are we asking? Are we asking Dan of P3? As far as we know, I mean, he has spoken. He asked permission to get this in motion before the contract was signed.
Right.
So is he the person that we now go to for certain questions, and then he will say, "Not, not my bailiwick. You need to go to the."
So when I ask questions, I include Dan, Chris McGowan, and Mike, and you. And so then everybody has this question. One of these people can answer it.
Okay,
And
so who has
everyone-
the authority to do it?
So depends. So like anything to do with procurement is Mike.
Right.
Anything to do with, I mean, Mike is also on the permanent building committee, but Chris as chair, might have a little bit more. Dan is going to be our sort of communication. If we're saying something to an architect and they're not listening, Dan's job is to interpret and say, this is what they're saying.
Right. So Dan is the go-between.
Dan
His-
is the
his co-
go-between.
His company. He's
So
he deals with all his team, and then he will.
right.
Okay.
And our contact, I believe, is going to be Rob. He was at the interview too.
Yeah.
But that's when it really gets rolling.
So we need to hear as soon as possible not the steps.
Yes, and
It's
so
decision making,
right.
deliberation.
So Dan will probably review these things as not for this, but for the design.
Yeah.
I will probably look at them if you want to. I mean, they requested 6 copies. I'm assuming Dan thought it would all go to the permanent building committee, but I'm betting that probably not.
6 copies of the final.
So 6 copies of each quote. Like when we get 3 copies of each of these, one for you, one for me, one for Chris.
Right.
So he said 6 copies plus a digital copy.
Okay.
So there's enough to go around. I'm assuming he's going to review them as well. But the ultimate decision, as you know, is the permanent building.
Right. Right.
So that could, you know. But I also want to note, because I've been a little nervous about there being this delay. There was a meeting. There was sort of like, I call it a support group, but it was like a Zoom meeting with all the libraries that have been immediately funded, that are at this stage, and we are not in last place right now. Hudson is still trying to decide on their OPM. Waltham hadn't even signed the contract from the state as of 2 weeks ago. Great Barrington was still in the process of signing a contract with their OPM. So things are moving, but we're all in the same boat. And as you know, as it seems like we're 3 months behind, everybody's 3 months behind. It doesn't help, but it is, you know, for
It's
the
strangely reassuring.
right, exactly.
But Not
I
sure
guess the biggest concern, you know, people are asking me. I had a question today. Someone said to me, I heard that the feds cut off, you know, library money. And I said, it doesn't affect the construction grant is still state. But the fact is, you know, it ultimately comes down to if the state isn't getting federal grants for other things, they could dig into the state money that's been appropriated for something else. It sounds like this is a priority, but you know, in an emergency, you never know.
Typically with capital campaigns like this, though, capital funding, once that money's been appropriated, the
Right.
train has left the station and they're not gonna pull something new.
So yes, that's what I was told. However, there's lots of capital things that, you know, if you're trying to fund a highway, you're not getting highway money, and there's capital money. Yes, I've been assured that the legislators have said, no, this is a priority, library funding is a priority. It's not a huge, I mean, think about the middle school is $180 million. The entire grant for the 13 libraries is $150 million. So it's the comparison, it's not even in the ballpark, but it's, you know, just to be aware. So I got kind of sidetracked from the grant update. That is actually the update.
okay.
I have nothing. We're in process. Everything is in process right now in terms of that.
So just asking everyone, there is a lot of material that has been shared, particularly from the middle school project and the superintendent. So maybe suggesting that just goes down for PR promotional, because part of that timeline, would that be? Well, right, so, okay, so then we hold back on all of that and that wonderful information actually that got sent to Marie, and Marie has to be able to share it with all of us. So, okay, so based on what we may or may not know at this point, let's go on to the director's report. Right?
Okay. Also, at the back. I believe I included this in yours. There's building committee responsibilities that I cribbed off of the MQLCP site. And so if you're looking for people, which we are on the, it's not on my. I attached it to mine, but it's a separate thing. Building committee responsibilities. It's one of the 17 things I sent.
Oh, okay. Well, maybe you should look at that. Yeah.
This is if someone's asking, well, what do I have to do? So this is the committee is more of an advisory subcommittee. So it's less important that people have building experience because the PBC covers all that, but it's really important they have, communication experience, that they have the library experience, they're pro library, know how to talk to people about the project. I mean, things like that. But they're going to be sort of key, as are the trustees and the staff. What is needed? How do we make it work? The building program is on our new website. The whole thing, if you want to read it, what we submitted to the state, what got us the grant, it is under construction project. And I'm gonna see if I can get this on there too. It might already be on there, but I'll check. I think it is. Anyway, so my report is mostly doing.
Okay, so we
Has
really
the
do need a
building
time.
subcommittee been set up yet?
The advisory
Meetings?
committee, so we have to clarify this. It's an advisory committee as part of the permanent building committee. Well, I'm assuming Leah from staff wants to be on it. Gloria, you, and I've asked other people, but at this point, like, this is not the part where people kind of, the really fun part is the part once the designer's chosen, then I think people who have expressed an interest will kind of come and would work.
I think the stage before that, though, because again, we're in a little state of unknowingness with the OPM, and I think I would suggest that part of all of this is all about
Those of you who are listening,
the PR.
if you are interested in being on this advisory subcommittee, please join us.
So I think some of all of this ties into what we've rolled it into PR and promotional, but it's all part of the same pie, in the sense that there are levels of communication vehicles to be set up, and some of which already have. You did that wonderful charts and everything. We've got homework assignments. But I think that part of what we might do, either at this moment or in the PR promotional stuff, is roll in this business about how these levels of communication vehicles are set in place. And therefore, where this advisory committee comes, this is not something, I think this is something that is a priority. I would suggest it's a priority to at least come up with people to be approached, to be asked. So if we've got two trustees, we've got Leah represented, the hands-on staff things, not obviously. I know at some point we talked about a patron, and had brainstormed in a woman who was at the legislative breakfast with her children. I mean, if I would suggest we do come up with a brainstorm list of these skills or communications that are represented on that, and also to decide a sort of approximate scale. Otherwise, too big becomes unmanageable, and too small, if people can't make certain meetings, then it doesn't function. So I'm just throwing this out there for discussion. At this point, I would suggest it's not something that is way down the line here. I think it's something that now we have the OPM and
Right.
hopefully to sign contract.
I think just some simple action steps in that you can enact now. Like, how often do you want to meet? What time? When? And then.
So these are things I should ask Dan,
Right.
because the way the middle school one works is that their OPM runs the meetings, and I'd say, do you want to meet on Zoom?
Mhm.
Is monthly enough?
Mhm.
And
So a damn to-do list.
yeah,
So the first one was the thing about who deals with the steps. We talked about this, or we just talked about a few minutes ago, right? Who makes the decision? Who decides design a short list or all of that part? That's a damn thing, I think.
he actually said permanent building committee. I mean,
Okay,
when I asked, because I included him in my request, and he's the only one who answered emails. So
well, then I would say Chris then, as the chair of the,
right.
let's send just a list to Chris of questions, blah, blah, blah. And then
Questions of what? What questions?
how the process of whittling down 45 people asking for information.
Okay, so it's not going to be 45 people. There's not going to be 45 people submitting. So
Right.
there were probably 25 who asked for this, and we got 5. So
Okay.
this is 45 asking. There's not going to be more than 10.
Okay, and that is controlled by Dan, because Dan is the one who's put out this RFP or whatever it's called. He's the one that's acted.
He did say, sorry for interrupting, he did say, in his presentation when the Q&A was happening, that he would absolutely be confident in telling us who not to choose.
Yeah,
So,
so the one of the things I did hear from Mike, because Mike was not the original meeting, he went. Dan is not, his company does not design. They're not architects, they're not construction, they're
Yes.
strictly OPMs. So he works for us.
Mhm.
So there's no issue like, say, CHA or Colliers. They also have a design element or a construction element. So you don't want to piss off the design people or the element, you know what I mean? Even if they're not yours. He works for us. It doesn't matter.
Mhm.
He doesn't, like, the designers are never going to hire him because he works for the municipality. So he doesn't mind saying, yeah, don't hire these people, don't hire. I know who he's worked with recently.
So he was the one that basically, however many respond to the RFP, they will first go to Dan, supposedly, or do they first go to?
No, they go to Mike, because Mike is a procurement officer. They will open, like the OPM ones were opened, and he will announce it. It's not on camera or anything. It
Okay,
just says,
this is the details that we all need.
okay, so this is what happened at the OPM opening, and the same thing's going to happen for the designer. They are due by 2:00 or 4:00 on X day. Then he goes and he opens the packages because they've now been delivered to him
At the town hall.
at the town hall, and he just marks down who delivered them, and we have a record of that.
Okay, then they get divvied out to
Then they get divvied up to whoever it is that's reviewing them.
and that will be, that's the question for Chris.
Okay.
Who gets to review? Is it just the permanent building committee?
I'm guessing no, because they didn't want to do this for
No,
me.
I know, but let's ask absolute yes/no questions now. And then, because otherwise we could end up suddenly finding we need to do something very fast that we didn't know we were going to do. And move on. So they all get opened up, who reviews. Okay. So that's one question for Chris.
I am going to send these questions to Dan, Mike, and
Yes,
Chris,
that's right.
and CC you, so that
The
everyone
chair,
will
yeah.
get
On behalf.
that. So everyone will have the questions. If someone can answer it and the other person can, or whatever, they will all have the questions and the answers.
Well, I should first ask everyone else if that's acceptable, or if you all want the questions and answers to go to.
Oh, gosh, no.
No.
No, thank you.
What's the rush? Okay, all right. I mean, at this point, what I'm trying to say is, whatever we did before, let's not assume. Let's keep making sure that we ask a question and we feel okay about it, and we all feel okay about it, even though it's the town project. We're going to be doing quite a lot of the heavy lifting communication-wise that we want to do, which we can get to, to say a bit later. Okay, so that's that. Now let's go back to this advisory committee then, okay? Because theoretically, this advisory committee could be, again, ask who, at what point, or we can even ask the superintendent of schools or whoever.
Is there a
At what
cap?
point.
Is there a cap on the advisory committee? Are you looking for a
No.
particular group?
So according to my consultants, you really don't want more than 12 or 15,
Okay.
and there's already 6. So the permanent building committee counts.
Okay, well, let's try for 12. Let's say it, because that's think of possibly 6 other people who would diversify, you know.
And there's a good description of like who
Right.
they should be and what they should
And so we have the construction part covered.
So can I ask for clarification on that 12? You said we already have 6. So that's the permanent building committee is 6 of those 12. And then with the 3 of us anyway, that's 9.
Yeah.
So you really only need 3 more people.
Well, there's of us, there's Marie, Leah,
And Leo, so that's
1, 2, 3,
That's
4, possibly
10.
this woman
That's 10.
who, and we had at some point, and Marie has reached out on several occasions to invite a member of the select board if they wish to be on it. And Marie has also presented it to the FinCom as well. Because I know it's a really busy.
I have also reached out to patrons and people,
Yeah.
you know, direct questions and people are interested, but it's hard to say yes when at the time there's just, well, this is where we are. I think people want to be involved when
Right.
there's time for feedback.
Here's the next part of the
They
question
want to give their opinion.
on that. Exactly. There's no point in asking, will you help, unless you give someone, will you help do X, Y, Z? So would this advisory committee also be looking at, say, the short list of design people or not?
I'm going to ask.
Okay, so that's on that list, right? You know, setting up of that. And I would float it past the superintendent of schools too, to see at what point that committee actually had hands on, because this is all to do with the timing of the PR and communications, which is coming up in a minute. I mean, what is so wonderful, and the generosity also of the school superintendent and everyone around that project, because I talked to someone as well today, how very generous they are to share that process with us. So we're lucky we're not totally starting from the unknown. We've got, and even if some of it we, fashion it slightly differently to our own things, but especially the timeline is just brilliant, I think, and the materials that came in recently. All right, so now therefore, we could possibly have a homework assignment for this formed committee, within about a month or 6 weeks, if you look at the timing. If they get everything in and then they do a cut, so there is a possibility that this committee could become active in the near future. Now that's the question.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And because the other thing about that committee is they are also a huge PR vehicle themselves, because they're suddenly right in it. All right. Stop me. All you have to do is stop me if I'm going on and on, but I'm beginning to feel some of the phases and the levels of intensity of all of this between now and June, right? And then the levels, they undulate, and the intensity comes and it goes and it comes but just in my humble opinion, it's very important when we ask people to help, we give them things to do. Otherwise, people think they've just signed up. Oh, and then, no one asked me to do anything. We've all been there, done that, I'm sure. So this advisory committee, and then come back to Jacqueline's point. If we are only looking for what, 4 more people? Is that the number?
That would put us at 12 to 14.
Right.
Right. Yeah. So that means we look at this and we know I would suggest we should be able to completely lock this down and maybe vote on it at our next meeting. And
Vote on what?
we want to the full complement of this committee.
Oh, I don't think I'm not sure. Is it an appointed committee? That's
Right.
interesting.
Yeah.
Next
think-
question, appointed committee, in which case how that works is letters of interest. If it works like other appointed committees that I'm familiar with, and the people write a letter of interest that then goes to the town administrator. who
Yeah,
then brings it to who?
well, that's what I
In
mean.
that case,
I
it would be us, right?
that's what I'm wondering. Is it to the board of trustees or the select board?
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
And as we're an advisory to, given that, the public building committee, they can't know all things at all times, and we're the ones that are meant to throw up things.
I think from what I've seen, it would be this board that appoints
Okay.
the committee.
All right,
Um,
there goes.
but that's from
Okay.
what I understand, and so I will confirm that with Mike. That's how it seemed to be from my consultants.
Okay.
That's how.
Okay, so again, there are little to do with questions, right?
So once that's established, if it's a letter of interest either to the town hall or to the board of trustees, then you advertise it, so to speak, for lack of a better word. You
This is
let
how-
everybody know if you're interested, submit a letter of interest to be on the
So
advisory.
I'm going to go before the select board at their next meeting, May something, I don't know, whatever the first Wednesday in May is. And I will have this description of the advisory board. And I will have more information by then. And I'm just giving them an update. This is where we are, and this is what we're looking for.
How about just throwing it out for your thoughts? Just in saying how great it is that the schools, middle schools, have done this already. Might there be someone there having a great familiarity with the process, who is also a big library person? Well, it doesn't have to be someone who's
To join or to give direction?
for them to join. It doesn't have to be someone who was on their advisory, but it might be someone who was very familiar with what their advisory process was. And also is obviously very interested in.
For the sake of time, I wouldn't belabor right now, that's just my recommendation. I wouldn't belabor who to ask to be on the committee. I'd ask how. How did they apply? And then ask anybody and everybody.
Okay.
And only until, wouldn't it be wonderful if you had 40 letters of interest from which you could choose, right? So ask everybody,
Okay, fine.
right?
That's
Whoever
right.
you think is a good candidate for whatever reason, ask them, and if they take action, wonderful, and that's something that can be reviewed now.
And the fact is, the meeting is an open meeting anyway, and if it's on Zoom, anybody can go.
Perfect.
Okay, so with that, how we go as far as we can go tonight with this?
I think so.
Right?
Mhm.
Thoughts? Yeah? Francisco?
Mhm.
Catherine?
Yes.
Okay, next item on the agenda. Okay,
So we do have one policy to vote on. Because we didn't have an advocacy meeting. And unless you want to talk about my report, nobody seemed to have any
does
questions.
anyone have any questions?
Any questions about my
Yeah,
report?
anything on Lily's report?
No.
Excellent. I love that.
Okay. All right, this is the policy. This, as you will recall, came from our last trustees meeting, that there should be, that we should have discussions that fast and work out. Because it had been a question raised by the staff about how to respond should I come to the library. So with that, so Francisco, Marie and myself had a meeting on 4/4, and Francisco was extremely informative on this.
I would like to just talk about this before you go very far, and also give your throat a break.
Okay.
Basically, Worcester Public Library shared this with all directors, and I just kind of cribbed it to be a little bit more specific to us.
Mhm.
So you might see WPL somewhere, and that just means I missed it. So these are, and I also spoke with the police chief here, who referred me to some Massachusetts general laws, which I think I attached as one of your 17 items. So that's where this came from. I did not create it from scratch because we're all about sharing. Sharing is caring.
Wow.
So,
Inspired.
And also it saves a lot of time.
so what's the pleasure of the board, now that you've got it?
So as I understand it, the policy lays out how staff is to engage with.
It's quite honestly, the more I read it, the more I realize it's a procedure, not a policy. Which means you don't necessarily, doesn't really need voting. What the policy part would be, policy part would be follow the law and, make sure that all of these things are in place, as opposed to, these are all the steps.
Yep.
And,
That's what I was picking up on.
yeah, and,
So-
and it was,
Yeah.
it definitely is.
And then the Lund decision is essentially, separation of responsibilities in terms of,
Right.
yeah. So, I mean, I think it's very straightforward. I don't have any, I mean, I guess, there's nothing in it that I'm concerned about, but I appreciate your distinction or between policy and procedure. So I certainly wouldn't object, but also curious.
The staff was very pleased actually when I forwarded that. So that was, it didn't really seem, but it was because I think it does deal with some federal things. It was important to bring it to, even if you don't have to vote on it. Like it's not an official policy, it's a procedure. It's not something that's going to be posted online. But it was something that I kind of felt, since we discussed it last meeting, that we should talk about. That's all. And if no one has any objection to it, we'll just make it an official procedure.
No objection.
Okay, and Francisco did volunteer to come and train my staff on this in May, because that's what he does.
Okay.
All right.
All right, so that was that, and it's good to keep me honest. We don't need more policies than we need. So the PR promotion, did we talk about this? Did we?
Yeah.
We already done that. Okay.
Do what? The PR?
Yeah, we already did that conversation, or no?
No, I had some thoughts.
All right, I was confused
If-
because,
If the board has the time, I just, one of the main things that, how this thing breaks into phases, I thought the materials from the school were just phenomenal. I really appreciated the degree of detail that had been shared, very specific details. And again, looking at, it didn't really go enormously big, but we've already noticed because we don't know the cost until March. So it really gets, like it just goes like
right, that's
From
when
March.
this comes into
a
play.
marginal. The materials that were sent and shared, like where was this, and also some of the earlier iterations that led to that. And if we think about the march, we know the cost, this whole, and this is all obviously orchestrated with by the OPM. So we have that, but then we have the phase to it. I just wanted to share with you and see if this was something you thought, because we talked about this a lot, is one of the challenges that I think we as a board can really help address is this building of the demographics, and this was what you, Jacqueline, worked on, which is breaking down support into demographics, assigning us homework assignments. I'm wondering if our initial homework assignment, as we reach out to people, and we obviously tell them about the project, and Jacqueline, you prepared some materials too, I you sent to Marie, no? When we talked in the last meeting.
A draft, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was supposed to go to Mercedes as the next step for her to
Oh.
make pretty, but it's in very draft form. I need to
Okay.
verify the information is accurate because some of it I
But we have
winged it.
But it is in the works. In other words, we have something in the works that we can then work on. So we've got something percolating there that is not a pull, but is a push. So that's what I'm thinking. We have this information, and it goes out. We push it out rather than waiting for people to go. We have to work out how to distribute it and all the rest. That's if we followed that model of getting far. What about us having an electronic newsletter dedicated only to this project? Again,
The
it's talked about.
OPM owns that.
Hmm.
Yes,
The OPM one.
owns the newsletter on the website in terms of updating on the project.
So
At this point, the new website is just us. He doesn't have that yet. I mean, if they're gonna create
But
a
that's in its,
separate,
no. It's typically in their scope. to
it
have
is, but
construction
what they
updates.
did for, in fact, Mike specified in the proposal that they create a website and keep it up to date, and then we'll just make a link to it.
and that's
That's not our website.
Okay.
I'm just posting what little that
So
we're
if I
doing.
just may follow this through for your consideration. If, for example, starting somewhere in the fall, so we have time to pull all of this other stuff together, so it's good to go. If we generate a dedicated e-newsletter to the project, period, that it's not going to be War and Peace, it doesn't need 5,000 words, but will have a lot of visuals, and including, so we take all that's going on, and the process of what the OPM is doing, and they're talking about it, and we are trying to build a list, and that list would be the equivalent of the demographics that walked in to vote for the middle school at the town meeting, because we talked at our last meeting how we don't have parents who would want the new school, although apparently not all parents did. I've since talked, but we build up at least some names. I mean, for example, if you have 100 names on an e-newsletter and we are sending them, say, once a month, September, October, November, December, we've got this all going out, and then bam, come March, you have this whole big display that goes running down then into June into the yes vote. So what I'm wondering is all our homework assignments, when we did all of that, we always had to talk to people, that as we reach out and talk to people, we obviously, yes, we tell them about the project, but we also ask if, because we're going to set up a dedicated e-newsletter, who can you think we could ask them to come in that newsletter? Then they can be reached out to, and even if you're not interested, you can unsubscribe. But so there's something building up a momentum with people who are becoming very informed about the project, and then comes the big march thing from the OPM. One of the things and again, this is purely subjective opinion, is the project is based on 2 sites. The town in the application has to submit 2 sites. One is this library, and one is an open space up there. I feel it's important to be able to prepare people for that, the fact that there are 2 sites and ultimately one will be included. The other, that talks about, so you have a photograph of an empty, up the site. Everybody knows, well, here's the library, here's the other. People only know it as an address. When you talk to people, You say, "Oh, where is it?" So the actual footprint of the two sites. Here's the size of the library. We quote a number, but we have a little drawing that shows it's this one. And lots of visuals, that sort of, as a means of sharing the process of the whole endeavour. And that's all. And that therefore we start there once we're talking to our very first outreach people about the project, the way we have the materials that Jacqueline and Mercedes are working on and other materials. We say, this is the project, and also we're looking to build an informational newsletter and to build, to be able to keep that going. And it's just one more thing in addition to everything else that starts to generate nothing. And that's just a thought. Visuals.
My sustainability people tell me the same thing. Take more pictures.
I mean, it doesn't have to be. I've just sent one. Look, I just sent one. I don't have my email. I sent one today, which is literally three images. If you're on the Russia Farms, you get it. Logo, a picture, something about picture, do it all right. It can be not an enormously time-consuming activity, but it could be just one more way of reaching out to encouraging people to be engaged and knowledgeable, and then, and then they go all the other way. The end.
So what I'm hearing you say is that and I agree, the materials that the school provided, or the campaign for the school, were incredibly useful. I appreciated the sort of the succinctness of them and how well they were able to drive home the point in a few short words. And I think that, again, what I'm hearing you saying is that we might want to use their very good model and replicate that when we're looking to develop materials for the library board. Correct. I also heard you say that there'll be a separate newsletter that we'll use to promote the building campaign.
Separate from the libraries.
Yep, gotcha.
Yeah.
Who is going to manage that?
Well, that's what we're going to talk
Okay,
about.
excellent.
I mean, if we felt all this was valuable, I think this is the point when the woman who came and spoke to us, that Francisco had introduced us to, who you give her the content, she posts it, she puts it on it. Because the other thing as well is, and again, all this is done in conjunction with the OPM. For example, on the OPM, they list in here website. They don't talk about Instagram. They don't talk about it. So I am wondering if, in the not too distant future, we have another conversation. I think Jennifer.
Jennifer Leffert.
Okay. Because we can fund that part of state aid. We're not adding to it. So to your point, it's not becoming something that the staff is expected to do. It's not one more thing that we would do, although we could gather some of the materials and say, let somebody else do it. But it becomes another visual out there, and we could support it with a professional person doing the placement, for want of,
So would you propose that we bring Jennifer back to the...
I think it's worth a look-see. That's all I'm suggesting.
Can I ask though, what happened with us? And I had nothing against Jennifer, so please don't. I thought she was wonderful, and I absolutely think that we need someone to own that, because that's a big thing to manage. It's very time consuming. But weren't we going to ask other libraries how they facilitated their PR to
I
get
believe-
some alternate quotes and ideas for comparison? I just think
believe
that's
I
my business.
sent a bunch of stuff from another library, how they earned money, and I don't remember. I'm like, of the 17 things I sent you, some of them I'm like, what is this? I didn't remember why I sent that, but specific. Yes, I sent that. That was attached to the back of my report last month or the month before, the PR stuff.
So can we revisit those resources in addition
Yeah,
to
I think
Jennifer
it's super.
and ask, you know, what does the, because Mercedes had some really good points when we discussed this last time in terms of consistency with the logo
Mhm.
and the message and all of it. I don't know. I think it's in our best interest if we're gonna hire somebody that we understand what's available to
No, I
us.
absolutely agree. I think I'm just talking concept here in the sense of us, this is one more quiver to the.
And my only concern, like more information is great, right? Cover all bases. I think that's wonderful. But my only concern, like the red flag in the back of my head is not duplicity of information, but all of the different places that you have to keep everything consistent and updated. So if you've got a separate newsletter, is it in step with all of the other updates that are being
It has to work,
communicated?
they have to work
Right.
as an entity, and
Yep.
that's where we, as we learn very, very specifically, what the OPM, they talk about. I mean, it's like everything, we all have our strengths and weaknesses, and they mentioned, because I'm gonna try to find, I know the website,
So all the ones that I've seen, like Collier's is their OPM for Fitchburg. They have a separate website on the building construction project.
Yes.
What they did for the middle school, it's a separate website that they're keeping up to date.
Yep.
And what Steve said is that they did put information out there. They had people wanted to do it themselves. People didn't come to focus groups. They wanted to go and find out on the website.
Yep.
and I think that, the point is what like this newsletter is not to do the job of that. It's to spread the word more. I mean, it's basically, to be really crass about this, it's to have the subscribers turn up on June 6th and vote yes, in addition to people who may only just have read this for the first. In other words, we're starting to build that. I think it's starting to build a tremendous awareness that then grabs this and says, yes, now we're ready to vote, rather than, oh, what is it? So why don't we do, go back, revisit the response we talked about a couple of meetings ago, right? And see where that takes us. Is that all? Any other thoughts?
Yeah, I think we have. I think we have the time. So the question that I have in my mind is, I appreciate Jacqueline's point. Like if we wanted to kind of compare and contrast a few different options, so we know that we have the best fit.
Right.
What's the process for that? Are we going to do that between this meeting and the next, or are we going to do that at the next meeting? Just because I think we're in agreement in terms of yes, that would add value to the work, and I think we're in agreement in terms of what your vision is in terms of this coordinated effort of public resources or communication tools. The question that I have is, what does that look like in terms of making that happen, and who's going to take responsibility for it, and what's the timeline?
So, what feelings?
I think it's worth investigating and seeing what the cost is and what the capabilities are.
So sooner, but
Are we going to do that at the next meeting, or are we going to do that between this meeting and the next?
that's
I'm all for get it done now, but who's going to do it?
awful. Sorry.
Who's going to do it? Who's going to reach out to those potential companies and what? Invite them at the next meeting, or I don't understand what the process is.
Well, I think we need to have a meeting to truly understand what the process is, I would suggest. I mean, we're going to find out, we're going to go back and revisit what Marie shared with us, right? And then if this is, and again, the design thing, and perhaps by that time we will see Mercedes' design thoughts on your material too,
I have not shared anything with anyone but Marie. So I was hoping to have a completed something to show you
okay.
today, but I don't know that the information that I included is accurate.
No, I'm not sure that there's. I'm like, I'm not sure we have anything to put on there yet.
There's dates that are referenced and
Oh.
things like that. I don't know if they're accurate.
So, okay, so
Did you see what I sent you?
I
Okay.
did, and I was kind of. I'm like, I don't know if it was the. It just seemed like not in the.
so let's, may I
Should
suggest?
explain it to me.
Yeah,
May I
fair
suggest
enough.
that we sort of, because this is what we have to gather things, that we decide, your point, yours, 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 that maybe, I apologize, I am not available for the May 27th date. I'm out of town. I apologize.
What's May 27th?
The next meeting.
Oh, we'll just reschedule.
Yeah, but do we want to have one in between?
Or do we want someone else to do a sub chair? Who's our assistant chair? You could run the meeting without Gloria,
Whatever.
unless she doesn't want to.
Either or is totally fine. I think we're answering two separate questions now. We've got to reschedule. We have to deal with the next meeting, which we can do in a moment. And then the question is, do you want to convene an additional meeting, or do you want to put this on the May agenda?
Right.
You would advocate like sooner rather than later. Would you be available for a brief conversation between the two? Okay, I'm seeing yes.
Yes, fine.
Okay.
So, you know, so,
All
but we
right.
need to give Maria a little bit of time to rustle through all the mountains of stuff that she has. So, if we,
And that's what I'm not understanding.
And you-
What is the action item? Are you asking Marie to contact all of those people?
no, we're going to find out what
I think what I sent did actually not include. Nobody gave me company names. All they said was their procedures or what they did.
Okay.
I'm not
I
sure they
looking for
actually.
company names.
I don't
Got
think
it.
they
Yes,
actually had.
that is what I
company names.
recall
Yeah.
actually, because I was like just trying to find the email.
Because I
It
was
like,
like,
this is
for
step by
what?
step. Yeah.
Did you do this? What was the company name? How did it work out for you?
And they didn't send you any help.
Correct.
No, they did
Yeah,
not send me
okay.
any company names.
That
okay.
and that I'm very like black and white.
And that's
Get it
probably why
done.
it didn't stick, because there weren't any. This is all I got.
That makes sense.
Okay.
So
So we would start.
I mean, I can do it again. Follow up 2 months later.
the next meeting is scheduled for May 27th. When are you away for? I might suggest like if we can wiggle that a little bit, I know it's at the very end of the month, but if we can wiggle it a little bit
Down.
yeah,
Right,
and then
so
we can get a meeting maybe the week before. But what is your schedule for May?
I am not available on those two, the Tuesday, the 27th,
Mhm.
or the 20th.
Okay,
But there's all sorts of times in between.
Wednesdays and Thursdays.
sure. So trustees, how about May 28th for a library board meeting?
I need to look at the calendar.
Again, I have a conservation commission.
Oh yes, I should have.
What about Thursdays?
Thursday, the
the
29th.
29th?
We used to meet on Thursdays or the 22nd. Let me see what we have.
Either 22nd.
Thursday the 29th works.
Francis,
That's
Don't work for me. I have a
Thursdays. Okay, Thursday.
training on Thursdays
Every Thursday.
until the 20th.
And we have music. We have a concert that night.
Okay.
So
How
this
about-
is not available.
What about Wednesday, the 21st to Wednesday?
Time my work.
That would be fine.
Yeah, yes.
Yeah, yeah,
I thought you said
that-
I'm at work. You said that might work. Sorry.
I said that might work, yeah.
May
So
28th.
that is I don't know if this affects, but I believe that's also
The select board. meeting.
select board meeting.
Well, we can always work around that.
I don't think I
Yeah.
have to go before the select board
Because,
that
I
day.
mean, that was going to be us popping in and out of the.
We have I'm gonna see if I can get her to meet elsewhere, but there is a book group that usually
No,
meets
well,
here.
we can go, we can meet upstairs. Where does the book club meet?
It says down here, but there's fewer than 6 people.
Oh,
They can
we
certainly
can scoot
meet
upstairs.
We can go upstairs. We did for years when this didn't function as a space. So, okay, great, 21st.
So
right,
then, if we're
6
gonna,
p.m.
Good.
Library trustees. Now,
could
let's decide what we're going to talk about, right?
well, do you want to try to schedule a second meeting like a week before the 21st to review the feedback that Marie's gotten from
We could,
colleagues?
yeah,
Okay.
we can.
All right.
But let's decide on the scope of the work, so we have time to have it there ready to discuss. You know what I mean? So if we're talking about a set of, okay, I'm just talking, so remember, just, pop in. If we're looking for a skill set that is basically about e-newsletters, maybe Instagram, Facebook, depending on where that division comes here, right? And that person would be responsible for the time-consuming activity of that aspect of promoting the project. Yeah, yes, I'm talking, yeah. And that this
Is everybody on the library's e-newsletter now?
okay, well, that's the other thing. And it means that that library email can also keep mentioning, the other ones, saying, this is the one's hot press and one's everything press, right?
Apologies, I feel like I'm mucking things up, but I think that maybe in terms of the scope of work, what we're looking for is someone to offer communication expertise here, right?
Yeah.
Because I'm not sure, I'm not a communications expert, so I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
But as you were just speaking about it a second ago, I was like, well, why would we divide our audiences? Why wouldn't we just have a special section of the regular newsletter that is update on the building committee?
So there's a link at the top of the newsletter that says the update on the construction project.
Because
And that's what I'm talking about. Be careful about redundancy.
Right.
And
well, I think
duplication.
logically,
It's a link to the
yeah,
website.
we're already
Well, why
there
can't we just
reaching to
do
the
email blasts with that link
what
on
we're
a
trying
regular
to do,
basis,
to
new
build.
update.
Sure,
new
why don't we
update,
just-
and have all the information be there and the history be there, because it's pretty. If you look at other library projects and what they've done, you can see the history and the chronological events as they've happened from the shovel going in the ground through the whole process. They have that there. So what I was recommending, to your point about why divide the audience, you could have your newsletter. You could have your newsletter on the website and start from today, for instance, grant awarded, and then build that information and just send a link, which already exists, to your email blast. There's a new update, but the repository is all in one place.
I think that's great. Normally, in a normal world, I'd be 1000% with that. I'm thinking of a slightly different agenda,
Which is
which is building an audience that is not already part of the library's audience. In other words, we are recruiting the future patrons.
why wouldn't you just sort of bring those folks into the tent and create a bigger tent?
But
But I am not a communications
no,
person.
that's what I don't know. Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, we're saying the same, but I don't know the answer to
Right.
that, because if the way to find out about the library is through the library's newsletter, and you're already getting that, that's great.
But that's where you can take that link and you can embed it in a QR code to hand it out to people wherever, or you could put it on Facebook and say, click this link here to sign up.
And where are you going with that link?
We can populate it. So if we have email addresses of people that we're advocating for to get information, then we can send that out to them.
Well,
Whether or not they subscribe is a completely different story.
no.
Are you talking about sending this out to your personal email list of people you have included?
Potentially.
Okay,
yeah.
that was
And then
just
asking them to
to-
repopulate it and send it to your friends,
Right.
or having.
That's the best way to get news.
Yes,
Really, because you're gonna trust your friends.
absolutely. And then also having physical literature is very valuable with a link
I
on
would never
it.
dream of not having. physical
Yeah,
literature.
thank you. Yeah, like the permanence of that
Right.
Clinton High School. How many
Yes,
times I looked at
that's
that,
right.
you know, oh yeah, let me look at that
And I
again.
think that was our intention asking you to, for on Mercedes, was to have,
Yeah.
something in our hands now,
Yeah,
not in my, but somehow and you're
and
right.
I do, I'm happy to share it. I just don't know that it's accurate. So maybe I could just spend a little bit of time with you after this meeting and just look at it real quick and
And I think the issue is not lots and lots of words, because that will come.
Mhm.
And again, it's working with the OPM to make sure that
Yeah, I get
the
that.
look of it.
I think that's another point that I had where I'm like, okay,
Yes.
I can see the value of having sort of a contracted communications person who's
Yes.
assisting us, but I would definitely want some greater information about how is that person working with the OPM.
That's right.
Yes.
And then
That's
working with
right.
us.
Yeah.
And that's why we wouldn't even look at this, I'd suggest, until fall.
Sure.
Because we do need to know precisely.
Can we
Sorry, I didn't.
divide some homework as an actionable item? I know you reached out to people that you know in your network and you didn't get the concrete information you were looking for. Would it be helpful if we looked at the most recent list of completed projects? Because we have that information based on that table that I put together of all the mid-size MSBA projects that were completed.
I actually sent that out too. You and you do whatever homework you want.
But what I'm saying is if we referenced, right, because they've done it, they've been there, they've been through it. So if we divide up that list and call the librarian and ask, did you use a PR firm and can you share who that was? Then, we have that information to work off of in terms of, okay, been there, done that. These people know the stands. Does that make sense? Were those people, God bless you, were those that you reached out to, were they any of the people on the list that have?
I reached out to all the directors I know. All the directors, a whole list just for directors. And I just reached out to everybody and said, if you've done a recent building project, did you use an HR? I don't remember,
Yeah.
whatever we talked about at the meeting.
Yeah.
And two people responded, and that's what I got.
Okay.
That's what I sent.
Could we ask you to follow up with those two people and say, which firms did you use?
I can.
Okay. So I think that it's going to be much more effective to have you who has the relationship than to have any member
Strangers.
cold call and, ask to speak to the director and have, trying to pull them away from the many things that they're trying to do in that moment.
But there are the trustees mailing list. I mean, reach out to trustees.
Okay, see, that's super helpful.
Reach out because you're on that trustees
I would be
list.
more than happy to do that.
And I think that you can, and you might get a message back saying, "Oh no, this is only for us to send you information." In which case, okay, sorry, but try and see the trustees list.
Thank you for that. But I will tell you, based on my experience with some other trustees I've met, libraries list the trustees or the town hall lists the trustees, but there's no contact information. It's just their name.
No,
So
but
then stalking them on
right.
Facebook.
But that list you get from MBLC, they send out stuff, and there's a list specifically for trustees.
With contact information.
No, it's a general.
Yeah, so
It's
I'm back
just-
in the same. I have someone's name now. I have to hunt them down.
No. So what it is that it's just like mass trustees at whatever, and so it's generic, and so the people will respond to, and you'll have their name.
Okay, we'll give it a try. Thank you.
Yeah, and I'm not sure because I'm assuming it's something you can respond to, but quite honestly, I don't know. But everybody who's a trustee who has an email is on that list and gets stuff from the MBLC on the trustees list.
So within P3, right, there is Megan Tuttle, Marketing and Community Outreach Manager. And she collaborates closely with project directors and managers to fulfill diverse marketing and public relations requirements for each project. She adaptly tailors materials to suit the unique needs of each project, encompassing monthly newsletters, presentations, brochures, and other communications mediums to keep the community informed. Her expertise ensures that project communication and public engagement are effectively managed. I would suggest that, if we ask to have a conversation with Megan, as she would presumably, we'd have to check, be the person within P3 that is doing that one, the big one, right? So, and say, we're looking for ways before we get to the big shazamazoo to keep getting the word out and to expand beyond the existing libraries e-newsletter base or newsletter base. Does that make sense?
It does make sense. So, but just for clarification, what I think I'm hearing you say is like it would be useful for us to understand Megan, who is with the OPM, exactly what her role is, and then where is not her role, and then we can understand. Okay, do we need to supplement that with another resource, or are we fine just with Megan? Is that the question that you're asking?
Yeah.
Okay. And I think that then that can go into, so if Marie follows up and gets information from her colleagues about if those folks if they didn't use a firm, they're like, oh, okay, we know that we don't need to, we're going to go with Megan. Or if they did, it's useful to know.
Well,
It
the
would be
fact
good
is-
to know how they interacted with the OPM.
Right.
And then any information that Jacqueline gets, all of that can be combined. And then we can come back to this at the May 21st meeting and make a decision about, do we want to go with an additional consultant, or are we good just with Jacqueline? Sorry, Megan.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay. Apologies.
I was just gonna say, I mean, we're already paying Megan.
Yeah, exactly. And maybe it's like, I appreciate the let's do it smart and strategic and not, duplicate efforts. So yeah, I think it's a very reasonable question that you ask. Let's, gather more information and make a final decision.
Mm-hmm.
And then we move forward.
Full research. Okay. Are we good?
We are good.
Good.
We aren't having another meeting before the 21st, right?
Not
Oh yes, we have.
well. Are we though?
Okay, I think we can just put it on the agenda for the 21st if we feel comfortable. Like I had thought, if you wanted to execute on the 21st, we would have been in advance. But if
Bring it.
But
we
we're
had
not.
got
We're going to start.
assignments, we can report on the 21st and then make a decision on that agenda.
And all we're waiting to hear now is the town did sign the contract, because that's the slight. I'm sure it's signed, but we do not know that yet. Right.
No, because they canceled. They postponed today's meeting.
And that's, I mean, although they may be reaching out to designers, I'm not sure that we can ask for their time until they've signed. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, we're abusing their time. So as soon as we can get clarity, yes, the contract is signed, then we can go, okay, here we are.
Show up.
Hey, and we could even invite Megan. I don't trust me.
We could.
What do you think?
I mean, I think you probably get the information you need for our May agenda by giving our call.
Okay.
But
No, well,
when you're talking to her, you can.
or we once we know the contract is signed, we say we're having a trustee meeting. We're going to talk about, how we can support.
Yeah, I mean, I think that would be a really excellent question to ask her. Like, the trustees are very eager to build infrastructure around amplifying, the materials that you produce. Is there, how do you see that playing out? Like, do we need to? Is it like a trainer situation? Do we need to have some guidance from you, or do you think that would be valuable as we're looking to create support within town? I would find it very interesting to hear what you
And if
say.
we didn't want to go as far as bringing it to a meeting, we can call a special trustees meeting via Zoom to have a conversation with her.
I think it sounds like
As long as it's posted, as long as we even repost it, right? But we await eagerly to know that
contract is signed.
she was here. That we can go, hello! Oh, all right. So keep personnel, because I just want to see her in the back together, because I have Okay, so here she is on the back. You want to hear? She has a whole page there.
We have a whole page.
Wow.
No. You-
Do I want to hear it?
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't think
No.
do.
No,
I
just, okay, oh, all right. Well, well, you know what? I could go and scan it and email it to you. No?
Or you can probably go to the
What?
P3 website.
yeah. We
Probably go to
have
the P3
access.
website.
Okay, all right. Okay. I'm not sure, sometimes we seem to go forward and then we said, anyway, yeah, okay, so we have a plan. We wait to know that the contract is signed and that we can reach out.
And I have a list of questions to ask people.
Mhm.
Right, okay.
For which you'll be copied, so you
All
get
right,
the
and-
answers immediately.
We have confirmed our next meeting.
Did you want to bring up something in
Yes.
business?
Yes, please.
Oh, okay.
And I hope I do this respectfully because that is my intention. I have a concern and I brought it up before. It's with attendance. We know that Mercedes is not going to be attending. Or she's not going to be running, I should say, so we're down one officially. And Marty, I like him a lot. I was so excited when he came up for that last meeting and I thanked him. Thank you for being here. And I thought, this would be a consistent thing. We haven't seen him since. And I am officially asking if we can take action in either asking him to come on a regular basis because he's missed more meetings than he's been at, or we replace him.
I think at this point I can say that I would need to repeat what you've said to the town
It's on camera.
attorney.
It's on camera.
What?
Absolutely. Yes.
I have already reached out and shared with you that, raise these concerns that we become very close to not making a quorum.
Mhm.
And that is the issue. So I am on all your behalf happy to do that again.
Especially with a group this
What?
small.
I was told that that there wasn't, well,
The bylaws are pretty,
don't mention certain things in the bylaws. All about the town, the library's bylaws within the town.
I'm not sure I understand. Can you-
Okay, because I had thought originally that if someone missed 3 meetings, that you could you could have conversations. And, first of all, you obviously needed to ascertain if there was a medical issue. And then what might be the resolution of that, if there was a medical situation where someone was not able to attend meetings. But for someone not to attend, because it's an elected position, this is what I was informed by the town attorney, unless it is actually in the bylaws that say if you are not available for 3 months, then respectfully you'll be asked to step down.
And so
It's not in the bylaws, that's the problem.
we don't have it in our bylaws.
We do not. Well, the town, does not have that specific thing, which I think had been used as a custom in the past, but it is not in the bylaws.
so what can we do? With Attorney Gibbons to amend the library's bylaws.
I am perfectly happy to go back and do it again.
Yes. I'm concerned that we're not going to make quorum and
Right.
I don't want to waste
Right.
my time.
No, I'm on your behalf. I'm very happy to go back. And
Thank you.
read.
I appreciate that.
No.
And no disrespect to him. Like I said, I think he's a great
No,
guy. I wish he'd show up, but he doesn't. So
And it becomes difficult to have the meeting. 'Cause technically, we don't have a quorum.
exactly.
Shut the door, lights go off.
Yeah.
Right. And there is so much to do.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'll do it again on your behalf.
And another question, can we have more on the board than the minimum numbers that we have now?
That's
We can't.
That's
Okay,
the bylaws.
I was thinking,
And
extra
you
people.
basically, it would have to be, it would have to, first of all, it goes on the town warrant as an article. The town votes for it, and then it actually has to go to the legislature, and they may or may not vote on it.
Okay.
It's not something that can happen right
Yeah.
away, like most things in music.
But it's,
I don't know the details, but something.
and again, I know other boards have had historically experienced situations. And again, I don't know if the town bylaws that covered them actually had this, because, it is very hard for boards if they don't have the people. And so, our particular missing colleague, it will coming up to a year, and was here immediately after the election and then December. So
Thank you, I appreciate that. I do have something else too. Can we please consider in addition to all of the other marketing collateral that we're brainstorming about is for preparing for the future for the donation aspect and thank you cards from the board for people who are donating with all of our signatures on it, or whomever it's appropriate to be sending. Because the organization sends thank yous, but I think it would be an extra special personal touch if it was coming from the board.
So we did do one. I don't even remember. I wrote it probably 6 months ago based on your draft, and I sort of changed it. I brought it to a couple of meetings and it never got, I don't even remember if we voted on it. Do we vote on it?
no, I don't think we did. No, we should, we'll add it to the agenda. I mean, we are now entering into the rhythm of, where is it? Right?
You all have a copy of it somewhere. I'm gonna get it if you want to vote on it now. But
And what is that going to look like, right? So these are questions I think we should ask when it's on the agenda in terms of, do we just have something that's mass printed with all of our signatures on it, so we're not spending hours signing things, or, branded with the library and so on?
Again, I think, we ask these questions and we also talk to,
so I can
Yeah,
tell
yeah.
you how it worked in Fitchburg because I gave
Yes.
some money to their campaign. I get the letter from the organization, and then I got a letter that was typed. It was signed by the two people. It was signed by Rob Favini and now, granted, I know both of them, so
Yep.
they both wrote me personal
Yep.
notes. It was signed by Rob, and I believe it was signed by Sharon, who's the former director, and both of them were on the fundraising
Mhm.
committee.
okay.
So it was not signed by the trustees.
No,
And then that's appropriate, right? But I don't think we're doing anything.
No.
I have a feeling that we have to separate out because the town can't fundraise, so this is all a separate
Mhm.
entity. So therefore, I'm not sure. I'm obsessive about personally signing thank you letters to the donations that are made to the library. With the pen that shows that it wasn't an electronic signature, so somebody, and if you know someone, I did attach a note, same thing. There was a donation to the library and I knew the person too, so I wrote a little note on that. But I do think we have to double check that we can't acknowledge what looks like a fundraiser.
It doesn't matter who it's from, I just think it's important that
Okay,
it's a
so
personal.
Right, I'm just, it was a while ago, so
Mhm.
I didn't save it or anything, which would have been useful. But, it was signed
Do
by,
we have a fundraising committee yet?
we have a person who's trying to get more people. I last saw him at this chamber meeting, and I kind of feel like I should ask him to come to our next meeting. why young people are interested, because he would love.
But
to.
I don't, but I'd like to be able to recruit people who may be interested, and I can't do that if I don't know there's a need.
Um,
Yes, he would love more people.
so the individual has said he would do it.
Bill,
Hmm.
yeah, he wants to do it, and I'm like, someone else came to the library and spent a long time talking to Laura about it, and so I called him and said, "Are you seriously interested? Can I share your name with Bill?" And he said, "Yes." I'm like, "Great, Bill,
Okay.
here's a person.
So
Please
we-
call him."
And who's Bill? He's the current say.
Bill Spencer, yeah.
So Bill is the person who would lead it.
He is the only do it. Yes.
So yes, he is going to lead it.
He's in charge.
Whether he likes it or not.
So can we say that there will be a meeting, a definite meeting between now and the next trustees meeting with Bill and the other person and you and anyone else?
We can't definitely say anything
No, I
because
know we can't definitely say
we're
anything.
counting too many people who are not me.
No, and then, but could we, could we eagerly request that there is that? Oh.
Are we done?
Well, we're about to adjourn, right? Okay, yes, anything else? No?
We should
Okay.
eagerly adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn, Francisco, seconded by
Third.
Okay.